Oh. You're still here? Honestly didn't expect that. It's been like 3 months. I know. But let's get into it. How's it going, everyone? It's Nari, Smosh 200. I don't know what it says, Smosh 200. That's the channel name, the old URL. Gaming Dominari, Dom, Adam, whatever you want to call me. I know it's been a little bit. I know this always happens on this channel. I say I'm going to do something, and then it doesn't come out for a very long time or ever. But I'm hoping to get back into the rhythm of things, since I have been pretty productive on my Gaming Dominari channel since I early graduated from school back in December. Good news is that I actually did complete my game in a month's time, and to give context, if this is your first time watching this series, essentially, I tasked myself with completing a song, a short film, and a game in a month's time for my class called, what was it called? It's gonna be up on the screen. I actually forgot it because I haven't been to school in like 2 months, basically. I'm so sorry if my teacher's watching this. It has literally been so long, and I have been working so hard on everything but this, making this video at least, that I actually forgot what the class is called. But yeah, I made the game. It's called Ice Cube Watch. Essentially, you are an ice cube, and you're fighting off slimes who are plaguing food in a refrigerator, and you gotta kill all the slimes, and it's a platformer game. It's a cheap platformer game, and a thing called GDevelop. This is what I used. This is GDevelop 5. It's a 2D, it looks almost like Flash. It's actually, I believe it's HTML5. I believe it's coded in Python or JavaScript. I can't remember correctly. It's on the screen. Thank you. It's awesome. I basically learned and made the game in a month's time, and I actually used the entire month to make this. I didn't take many breaks at all. I spent most weekends, most time out of class making this game, and I think it paid off pretty well. And so we're gonna go through it. I think the way we're gonna go through right now is we're going to play the game, and then we're going to basically explain it as afterwards. Let's hop into this project. Yeah, it runs on a JSON file, which I do believe is JavaScript. So yeah, we'll go through it. We have 4 main scenes here. With JavaScript works in scenes. So we have the main menu, the tutorial, the options, and the level. And then we're just gonna go ahead and start this up real fast. So this is the main menu, and in the main menu, it's just play, tutorial, and options, basically what you saw from the scenes, and then you just have cycle through. So we click here and give it a second, and then music kicks in. What's funny about this song is that if you don't recognize it, I think I did actually play it in my my first video, where I actually went back and listened to my old music, and this is called Chill. This is a song I made back in 2017, I do believe. I'm gonna have to turn this down. So I actually have a sound thing here that actually turns the sound down, which is cool. But yeah, there's options. You have sound. You can control the menu with the arrow keys as well. Tutorial. You are an ice cube fighting against the slimes plaguing the food in the refrigerator, as I detailed earlier. Use WSD and space, or arrow keys plus right shift. You can also hit up arrow to move around, and hold to jump higher. Hold jump to go higher. You jump on slimes to freeze them, but watch out as they can take away your lives. You have a life counter starting with 3, collect ice shards to regain life, and you have this little pizza meter to kind of detail your life, as long with a number that's in front of it, and the ice shards, and open mini fridges to set your checkpoint when you die. So I'll just go ahead and hop in here. First off, some fun things I want to detail is that this little water droplet thing you're seeing here, it took way too long to program. This is one of the first things I programmed. GDevelop already has an engine for platforming, so all of this was pretty simple. I just had to map stuff like the up arrow for jump and stuff like that to kind of mimic the movements. And I just added some deceleration. So of course you accelerate and then you decelerate the same values. So it kind of brings that ice form to it. So you jump on them to freeze them, and unlike a Mario game, you don't bounce off of them. You can actually use them as a platform. It turns them into a platform object, which you can jump on, which is pretty neat. These are little jump throwable platforms here. Just like if you play at a typical platform, you recognize them. And so I use that platforming technique to actually get the ice shard here. And of course, you got the lives on the top right showing how many lives you got left. And yeah, so basically you're just tasked with killing all the slimes. I'm not going to go through the entire game. There's not a lot to show here. One thing I do want to show is I want to show the mini fridge for the checkpoint. That is right here. And that opens up and it says chill. And that's how you know you've unlocked the checkpoint. And then I'll go ahead and show the platform up ahead. So right here is something I added pretty much last minute just to spice up the level. This is only one level in this game. There's this little platform that goes up and down. It's kind of jank. It's not like a typical platform. It kind of jumps you up and down. And then when you're going down on it, kind of makes you glide up a little bit. But it's the best of what I could do with the engine and the time frame I had. And I think it works pretty well, honestly. If I had to change some things, I probably would have refined the movement on this and probably made the water drops actually stick to whatever object is touching. Just make it a little bit more interesting. But I spent way too long on the water drops as it is, so probably could have done without it. Most of that water droplet testing was just debugging of it. But that's all I'm going to show of the game right now if you're interested. I will actually have the link for it down in the description. You can run it in your browser. I might have a download link, but I'm not exactly sure. It's an installer. So basically every scene has its own events. And if you've ever used anything like Scratch, you'll know an event. This is basically all the code. And so it's very unorganized as I kind of just went through it. So the main menu is actually one of the last things I worked on. And the level is what I started on. So I have some simple code here just to make it so there's a variable that does the main menu selection. And then you can go up and down with it. So basically when it's set to 1, that means it's on play, 2, tutorial, 3 options. And if it goes to a 4th option, it just loops back around. And I just have that for all the main menus. Something I also forgot to detail in the game is when you die. So when you die, of course you lose life. But if you die all the way, you get this screen. And you hear ice being dispensed out of a refrigerator. Unfortunately for this screen, I used a tutorial and the guy told me to use sprites for the menu thing. So this is actually just one sprite. So you can't actually click anywhere. I actually thought about making it so like if you had your mouse from like right here to here, then it would ping on restart and here to here would do exit. I didn't have enough time for that, but that's something I could have done, just even if having as a sprite. But you just use the arrow keys here, and then you can restart or you can exit. And it's the same situation for when you finish. It's basically the exact same screen. It lets you do all the same. And so I use the same code for that as well. Oh, also, I forgot to detail this as well. Oh my god. There's actually a pause menu. And this is the same sort of situation. You can't click on it. It's a sprite. But yeah, you can restart from here, or you can just continue. So everything in here, including the sprites, animations, and everything, pause. There's some really funny bugs. Like if you jump here, yeah, if I don't jump and then I press right shift, which isn't a button you typically click to, you can click to jump as well. And then I go through, it'll jump afterwards. So that's something I could have probably like made it so like when I'm in the game pause menu, it makes it so there's no input controls for the platforming object. That's not something I even learned about until like a week ago. So, oh well. But like I said, just minor little things that could have been refined, but I just didn't have enough time. Moving on, so yeah, this entire thing from here to here is all about just the main menu. This right here changes, like if you have a cursor on it, it changes the main menu selection, and it also changes the color from black to white. And this could have been a lot more refined, but I was just working with what I had, and this is actually all, I didn't look any of this up, I kind of just went off the whim with it. I have some starter things. So basically at the beginning of the scene is when the scene starts. So in this case, you start from the main menu, so this is when the game starts. It changes the main menu selection to 1, so it's always on play at the beginning. And it changes the global variable sound, which stays throughout the entire game. It is not scene specific to the sound level that is set in the options menu. So if you go out of the options menu, it's not going to go back to 100. It's going to go back to whatever you set it last, which took me a while to figure out, but I finally got it working. And then this as well. If it doesn't have a condition, it means it's always running. In this case, this game is capped at 60 frames per second. So every 1/60th of a second, it is running this, and so that's just changing the sound level to whatever the global variable is. And of course, it plays the chill MP3, assuming that this is not already playing, but it does loop, so it's not going to play over itself over and over again. I'm sure if you were like frame perfect and you played the song as soon as it started again, as soon as it looped, it would probably play twice. But like, what are you gonna do? Moving on, I'm gonna go ahead and go through sort of the everything else but the level right now. The tutorial, it's super basic. I originally had it so it would be 2 screens for the tutorial, and I was so you can see right here, if you go to the tutorial screen and you press right, you'll get a non-existent selection, and if you press space, it'll just do nothing. I actually forgot to remove this before I shipped out the game, but I was gonna make like a secret Easter egg screen here, but I forgot to. I didn't have enough time up in the end. So basically, I could have honestly scrapped most of this code if I didn't want it and just had it so it would start here, and then if you press any button or click this, it would just go back. But it is what it is, and you know, can't change it now. I mean, I could, but there's no point. Moving on to the options, this is pretty basic as well. I was going to add some other options for graphic fidelity, but there was no use for it, because honestly, if your computer can't run this game, you got bigger issues, because it's really easy to run. It's HTML5 JavaScript, so yeah. This also has the main menu selection. There's 2 things on here, and also when you have this selected, you can press left and right to move this up and down, and then of course I have the code to just set whatever this is to the global sound level, like I said, so it doesn't just change when you change scenes. And that's applied to every scene except for tutorial, because I forgot to add it, but it doesn't matter because no one starts on the tutorial. I mean, you always start from the main menu level, so unless you are somehow able to change the sound from the tutorial level, the tutorial scene, then there's no issue, which you can anyway, unless you finagle it and you open up cheat engine or something. And now moving on to the meat and potatoes. This is the level, and yeah, it kind of looks a little jank. So yeah, this is the whole refrigerator here. I want to explain some basic stuff. So everything here is an object. Everything from the ice cube himself to the platforms to the UI, and they're just put on different layers. So the UI is put on, you know, the top layer, and that doesn't move at all, but everything in the base layer moves. And I was gonna have the background parallax scroll, but ended up just scrapping it. But I still put the refrigerator in the background layer anyway. So I'm gonna go down the list here. Everything that you see object here is basically how I've kind of put it in chronologically. I kind of moved some stuff after the fact, but you can tell I worked on the ice cube and then the water droplet, and then I started putting platforms in after the fact. But here's the ice cube. So his name is Ice Cube Player. And he has a behavior called platform object, and behaviors basically change the way objects move. So you can add different things. You can make it a platform, which platform characters can run on, a platform character, which is what this is. You can have it destroy once outside the screen. So if you have like a game where you're shooting a bullet, and when it leaves the screen, you want it to, you know, destroy itself to, you know, help resources and lag and such. That's helpful. Draggable objects for puzzle games and such, and top down, so you can have like isometric games, anchors, just other sort of stuff here. You can look through the list yourself. And something I find interesting, physics objects, which I actually use for the water droplets, but we'll get to that in a second. Oh, so I lied, actually. The deceleration is not as fast as the acceleration. I forgot about that, because then that would just be insane. But yeah, you accelerate at 1500, which I think is pixels per second. I may be wrong. That's probably wrong. I actually don't know what the units per second speed is here. We have sort of different options here, like the gravity, the jump speed, max speed overall, stuff like what's the max angle they can go up slopes, what time, you know, like the jump's the same time, so the longer you hold it, how much higher they're going to go. And I think I actually did lower this one because it was significantly higher. I didn't want them to jump that high. There's also an option here for players to grab ledges, which is pretty cool. But I didn't have that option because it's an ice cube. I mean, what ledges you can be grabbing? You don't have arms. But yeah, he has no animation. He's just a blank face, and there's nothing about it. But yeah, so I was lucky in that ice cubes. I was gonna have him like look right when he was going right and stuff, but and I'm just not bothering it because I didn't want to spend too much time on one thing like I did with the water droplets. Moving on to the water droplets. Here's the water droplets. You have an animation for when it's falling, and I'll go ahead and loop that so you guys can see it. When it falls, it just shrinks, and it doesn't typically loop because it just kind of gets small as it goes. And then when it hits the ground, it does this animation. We're going to loop it so you guys can see it as well. So you can see it just kind of... Can I make this bigger? I can. So just a little water droplet, and I animated these myself. It didn't take too long. It actually took a long time, actually. I'm lying. And then for the platform objects, basically you for behaviors for the platforms, it's pretty self-explanatory, as I said earlier. You just have refrigerator platforms, and there's not really any options you can change here, except for ledges grabbing, and you can actually change whether it's a jump-through platform or a ladder. Now for walls, it's a bit of a different story. Unfortunately for walls, you have an issue where if you make it a platform, then they kind of maintain their momentum, and in some cases there's an issue where it will completely like bug out, and you'll kind of like bump into the wall a little bit. So what I did for that is right here is I made it so when the ice cube collides with the refrigerator wall, it moves it away, and only the ice cube will move, the wall won't, because it's a wall. But as you can see here, this is all too complicated. We're gonna go through it. You have the jump through platforms, which is just a modifier on the platform object. The checkpoint, and this doesn't have any specific behaviors to it, but it does have the animation, just where it opens up a little bit. And of course, it's a bit slower than that, but I think the animation speed changes throughout this. I added this last second. I added a refrigerator moving platform up and down. The reason I specified up and down is because I actually was going to have one where it goes left and right. And I'm not doing that. And the reason you see these little blue balls that you didn't see in the game is because it's actually hard-coded itself, so that the slimes always will walk right, and then when they touch this, it'll move left. And these at the very beginning of the scene are all hidden. So they move right, they touch it, and then they move left. And even though they're hidden, their collision isn't. So anything that is supposed to detect their collision will still recognize and still send an output. You also see I put some of these objects down here just so I could easily copy paste them around the map. We'll go through this a little bit more. You got the ice shard, nothing special here. Everything behavior wise is just within the events. I was going to add an animation where it moves up and down, but ended up having some issues where it would like move down way too much. I probably could have used some of these up and down arrows to actually make it do it itself. But like I said, not enough time. We have two different types of slimes here. So we have a slime in this state where it's moving around, and then we have a slime when it's frozen. And when it's frozen, it actually changes itself to a platform object, like I said earlier. So it's able to be run into, jumped on, and used as a sort of a puzzle. So you can jump on other objects, which is pretty cool. And all of that code is here. So when it is in collision with a slime and it is falling, so even if you're falling and you touch it from the like the left or right angle, it's not going to matter. It's going to delete that slime. It's going to create one in its place, and it's going to make it stay still. And then it'll just subtract from the variable, which shows how many slimes is left. And then when that gets to 0, of course, it'll end in the game. We have left, right, up, and down. So these are just, like I said, the hidden objects to basically make things go up and down. And this is actually one of the documentation. I did go through the entire tutorial for the entire checkpoint thing, and then did add some stuff after the fact. This is the background, just simple. I just have it locked right now so you can actually move it because it was getting annoying. Slime left. This is the text right here that shows how many slimes is left, and then puts a number at the end of it. 0 here is just the main, it's just like the default, and then it actually changes it when the beginning of the scene starts. And then I have the pause, the die, the one menu. These are all actually, they're not here, but they spawn when you click it. And then this is actually a unused asset that I left in here. This is an ice dispenser. It was supposed to show up when you win, but I had some issues with, I could have probably just changed the scene. But like I said, I don't have time. How many times am I going to say that? Jesus. But I was having issues with like some things layering over it. I could have just increased the Z level of it, which is like you have layers and then the Z, whichever has the highest number shows up on top. Didn't end up doing that. Probably could have, but I just feel like it didn't really match with it. And it's like really high quality too. It's like a really high quality resolution, which is just really weird. These slimes are actually the default slimes you get. I think they're usually pink, but I opened up Photoshop and I textured them up to make them all green. And I actually really like how they look. They kind of fit with the aesthetic of the whole thing. There's not really like an art direction I went with this. I just kind of winged it and put everything together. But let's go through the events, which is so unorganized. It's gonna be rough. So I have this code right here to center the camera on the player. So the object always will stay in the middle until it hits one of these edges right here. So it doesn't just show the bottom of this or the left or right or top of this. And I just, like, if you look where my mouse is and then you look on the bottom left corner, it'll actually tell you where the X and Y position of my mouse is. And so I just took my mouse and kind of got a rough estimation of where they would be. And then basically I just put it in here. So it basically asks for a top left X, a top left Y, a bottom right X, and a bottom right Y, which is just all four corners of the map, so it doesn't go out of those bounds. You have some Z layer changing here, so some stuff will always stay in a specific place when it's spawned. You have changing text to lives of how many lives is total, and that's a global variable. It could have been a scene variable, but I put it as a global variable for whatever reason. Oh, I think I put it as a global variable because scene variables have a hard time actually writing out what it is in a text box. That was a weird little kink I went through. That's not what I meant to say. You know what I meant? Yeah, so this string right here, slimes left, plus the string of the variable slime left. And I had to transform that into a global variable for it to render properly. It was really strange. It was a weird little thing I had going in there, and I didn't understand what was going on at the time, but I had to fiddle with some stuff and make it work, which is just game development 101. Sorry, I hit my mic. So for the checkpoints, I actually have it so at the very beginning of the scene, I have it so at the very beginning of the scene it's sex. So for the checkpoints, I actually have it so the very beginning of the scene is considered a checkpoint. This is considered a checkpoint later on as well. And I think there's only 2 technical checkpoints in the entire game, which is the spawn and the actual checkpoint. And so basically it says it's a 96 and 480 and 468, which is the exact coordinates of the starting point. And then it calls back those variables when you die and sets the player right there. Some other stuff here. This is all the code I got working. I had to get working for the water droplets. It was so tedious and so, oh my gosh, it was rough. I just have some emulation going on for different keys. When the escape key is pressed, it brings up the pause menu. I actually made it when any of the water droplets is in collision with any of these objects, it will set it to static and then change the animation to that one you saw earlier. And it'll also disable the physics, because these actually do have physics to them, which is how they fall so uniformly. And actually, if they collide with each other, I actually do like this little rolling, which is really funny. And then when it's finished, its animation, it will delete itself, so it doesn't just stay there as a little puddle, which is something I also had issue with. When the ice cube is collision with the ice shard, it will add a life to it. It plays a little sound. This is just code for making it go left and right and knowing which way to point itself horizontally and also move. If the ice cube is in collision with the slime and is on the floor, he's not falling. If he's on the floor, it will actually subtract a life and then move him to the last checkpoint he was set at. Oh, also, I was wondering what this code is here. If he's actually above Y600, which is right here, as you can see on the left, if he's above it, because if you see, if I move my mouse down, that the Y, this is X, this is Y, the Y will go down or will go up. So if he's above this, that means he's out of the map, so he'll lose a life and he'll go point. This is the only point in the entire map you can actually fall out. I could have made it interesting and had it so like when he goes through here, he teleports up here, which I in retrospect I could have done, but in the sense of a refrigerator, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I talked about the code about earlier about falling and stuff. Yeah, it's the code about the refrigerator wall, setting the checkpoints when he touches the checkpoint, changes the variables and sets the animation to the chill. Here I have the noise it makes when he's moving around, and this took me a little bit to figure it out. Just having a looping sound that sounded nice. I went on free sound, I think my camera just died. My camera... I'm sorry, my camera totally just, like, spontaneously combusted on me. I'm sorry. That shouldn't affect the audio, though, so I apologize. I found this sound on Free Sound, I believe, and I learned how to loop a sound in Audacity, and then just imported it in here and made it so if it was not being played, it would play itself when it's moving, and when it is being played, I don't know, it's confusing. Alright, so if he's moving, he's on the floor, and the sound's not being played, then it'll play the sound. If he's not moving, he is not on the floor, and the sound is being played, then stop the sound. Really confusing, and I couldn't just use this loop, otherwise it would loop it in a weird way where it would just keep on looping if it wasn't moving. It was really confusing and really weird, and it took a lot of fiddling. All of this here is pause menu selection. Or this is actually, all this here is pausing and then the pause menu selection. So you can see pause and then menu selection. It's really confusing. And then lives is here. So if you hit 0 lives, it'll create the objects dive menu at the middle of the screen and then play the ice dispenser sound. I did have a thing where it would create the sprite for the actual ice dispenser background, but like we said, couldn't get that working. And it will also hide the pizza lives and make the background black and white. And then you also have dive menu selection here, same situation as the main menu stuff. You have different, this is stuff I added afterwards. You can see it's down further in the list. Basically when it's moving up, it'll move up at a certain direction, 100 pixels, and then down when it isn't down, and it'll change whether it's in collision with one of those invisible up and down arrows. And then the final code here is just for when you hit when you've gotten all the slimes and it's hit equal to 0, and then of course the one menu selection. And that's basically it. This took an entire month to do as my first game I've actually ever completed, if you don't count my little silly Scratch games from back in the day. This is the first game I've actually ever completed, and unfortunately I don't have like any, if at all, documentation of those games. I had my account hacked on Scratch so long ago and someone deleted all of it. Oh, so sad. Which sucks because I actually made some banger stuff. I made a game which is kind of like this, called like Big Box Adventure or something like that. And it was so detailed and awesome, and it was so easy to make stuff in that game because Scratch was just so much easier as block coding. But yeah, this is my first time I've ever done like worked in JavaScript. So this is like if this, then that, and then you also have some different things. So like if all of these is true, or if one of these conditions is true, then it will still do it. And then you have like if one of these is true, if all of these, or this. So it's like you have if ands, ors, ands, basically simple stuff in coding that you would typically have. But yeah, that's the whole thing. If you're interested in playing it, like I said, I'll have the link down in the description for you. But yeah, that's essentially it. To be completely honest, I didn't think I was going to be able to finish this at all, but I ended up finishing it surprisingly, and it went like really well. I'm really happy with the result. Like I said, I really wish I could touch up some final things. 2 months later, here we are. I'm finally making the video. I'm so sorry that I postponed it for so long. If you've been interested in this series, if you haven't, there's 2 other videos you can watch before this that will kind of detail the last 2 projects I did. But yeah, I'm glad I finally got to it, and tomorrow I'm going to spend the day editing this and whipping it up, and then I'll probably be posting it sometime later this week. But yeah, I apologize. I've just been going through a lot of stuff and working on the Gaming Dominari channel and social media, and then I've just been going through a lot mentally and the start of the year. It's been pretty rough, but fortunately, I passed high school. I've essentially graduated. I'll be getting my diploma and going to graduation later this year. But yeah, I've essentially graduated, already passed this class, which is so funny to think. I whipped up a research paper, which is also why this video took so long, because I had to do the research paper. I had to do a Google Meet with my teacher, showcasing everything, which he recorded and sent to the person who validates it all. But yeah, this was super interesting to make. I'm really glad I did this. And I'm actually making a new game with a friend, which I'm not going to go into because it's a thing that we're not even like spending a lot of time. We're just doing it for fun, and we've not set a deadline on ourselves or anything like that. But yeah, I think that's going to conclude this video. Before we end it off, I do want to detail some stuff for the future of this channel, and then I want to go and you guys can watch the clips of my parents failing at this game and having a good time with it and everything. So there's a couple videos I've been wanting to make. I want to make a video detailing YouTube's policy change on advertising on channels that are below 1,000 subscribers, like have mid-rolls on them. This is something I want to rant about. I also want to make a video on this. I recently got this. This is the S21. It is very dope. I love it. My parents got the S21 Plus. My dad and my mom got the S21 Ultra. Very great phones. I love this. I'm upgrading from an S9, and this thing is awesome. I'm currently using the Spygen Liquid Air Matte Black skin, or not skin, case, and I'm going to put a D-brand skin on it. But yeah, I would like to make a review on this phone next month, sometime at the beginning of March. Also, my birthday's in March, March 2nd, so very fun. I might have some new tech to play around with then as well. Probably not, because I've been wanting a new graphics card, and I don't think I'm going to be getting one because all this stuff going on in the world. Something I also would like to make videos about is this is a Nintendo Switch Joy-Con joystick replacement. Unfortunately, our original red and blue Joy-Cons have started drifting, so I actually got this kit just the other day along with my phone case, and I would like to fix it on camera. I think it'd be an interesting thing to do. And also, I'd like to make a video on these. These are the Aki EP-N5s. They're earbuds that I think would be an interesting video. They're the cheapest ANC earbuds you can get, and I want to spend a month with these and whip up a review. I think that would be interesting. So if you're interested in any of that, please let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching this far. I really do appreciate it. I know I'm not consistent on this channel. I'm going to try to be. I've been really consistent on the Gaming Dominaria channel, so if you're interested in any of the content I produce over there, please go watch it and let me know what you think, because I've been spending a lot of time working with a new editor of mine and good friend to whip up something really interesting. So let me know what you think. I would be really intrigued to see what you had to say about it at all. That's going to conclude this video. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye bye.